Good morning and welcome to Recipe for Success. My name is Nancy Giacalone, and we are back after our Q4 hiatus. For those of you that know me, I work in the employee benefits industry, individual and Medicare, and this is our Super Bowl of the year. During October and November, we work incredibly long hours, incredibly hard to take care of all of our clients, and it meant that I had to make some decisions, which one of those was putting Recipe for Success on hiatus. But we are back today, and I'm so excited to have Quincey Fox with us as our first guest. The whole premise behind Recipe for Success is that I love to cook and bake, and I noticed that as I was doing that, that every recipe had one thing in common. There was one key ingredient or technique that was really critical to the outcome of that dish. And I also started to notice that that's very true in life and business as well. So, for the last few months, I have been really focusing on women doing great things in the workplace, in life in general. And so, like I say, Quincy and I have been talking for a while. And we were finally able to coordinate our calendars. And so, she is our first guest back from hiatus. I'd like to introduce her and let her introduce herself to you. So, Quincy, why don't you introduce yourself and tell our audience a little bit about your background?
Absolutely. Well, thank you for having me, and I'm honored to be the first guest back after this hiatus. My name is Quincy Fox. I live in Southern California with my husband. I have a 1-year-old daughter, and we have two pups, so the five of us. And just a little bit about me, I'm actually born and raised in Southern California, but my husband and I lived in upstate New York for about 8 years. And that's where we met. That's where we became Christians. So that's really important part in our just personal life, spiritually. And that's where we started in business together. It's where we started working with our company in financial services. So we've been in business. My husband and I actually have different backgrounds. I went to school for psychology. He went to school for pre-med and has a background working in medical sales. So we have a little bit of a funny background, and now we run a financial services business together. And then we recently made the move out to California. So we're here now, but that's kind of where our story began. Was about 8 years ago. So little bit about me.
So that's very interesting because we always joke about that nobody ever grew up thinking they wanted to be an insurance agent. Like it's never really on somebody's career path, but a lot of us, once we find ourselves in the industry, we really love what we do. So I'm really curious how you went from psychology and pre-med to financial services.
Yeah. Yes, we get that question all the time, like, "How the heck did you end up here?" And like you said, we love what we do, so it's not like I don't believe I'm here on accident. But I got here through a job internship program. The school that I went to is a university called Rochester Institute of Technology, RIT. And RIT has a really great internship co-op program. They're connecting students with their employers. And I found Primerica, which is our company, Primerica Financial Services, through a job internship program. This was in early 2014 through a job fair. And I started, and I didn't have any interest in financial services. Like I shared with you, my degree was in psychology. I wanted to go into a field like teaching or coaching or ministry, nonprofit work, helping people in some way. And that is absolutely what I'm doing. It's just a little bit different than what I would have imagined. And I started here through the co-op program to get college internship credit, and I just fell in love with it. And once we started, doing well for ourselves, realizing there was a huge impact, my husband, realized that he didn't want to be on call on Christmas. We were sick of having him on call and
Yeah.
not having that freedom over our time, because he had a job where he would travel internationally, and they'd give him a call, and Nancy, he'd have to be on a plane to Asia in 36 hours, and that was that. Like, we didn't have control over that. So while he was passionate about the medical field, he loves working with surgeons and doctors. That was just always where his passion. Logistically, for our family and what was most important, it was too much of a sacrifice that we just weren't willing to make. So he started working with me, and and thank God for that. So
I
yeah,
love it.
a little bit funny how we got here, but we wouldn't, God willing, we'll never
Yep.
do anything else.
I love it. So, obviously in the industry I'm in, I'm approached by financial professionals all the time that,
Yeah.
want me to introduce them to my clients. And I know a lot of them. I know a lot of really quality ones. And I know some not so quality ones. But
Yeah.
one of the reasons I was super interested in talking to you was that you do a great job from the financial perspective, but you seem to be about more than just building a portfolio. You're really committed to promoting financial literacy and helping people, which you brought up. So I'd like to know a little bit more about your why that drives that.
Well, thank you. That's a nice compliment. I don't take that lightly. And honestly, when I first started, I shared with you that, okay, I started here as a job internship and I just fell in love with it. Well, what happened in between, what made me fall in love with it was kind of what you were talking about, is seeing what is going on in the industry and how many people, how many families get taken advantage of. People that are sold products that are not in their best interest, people that are just completely ignored altogether because they don't have enough money. I mean, I just saw a lot of, in my opinion, injustice that was happening. And I
So
saw
much.
that and I realized that, again, no one's perfect, right? But I realized that, if this is an industry that kind of I was complaining about, that, hey, there's a lot of people that don't have financial literacy or people that don't do what's right. Well, I need to be the change that I want to see. Maybe God has me here for a reason, to be a light in an industry that, can be kind of dark sometimes, and people can be, money is a big stressor for most families. We always say money isn't everything, but worrying about money, stress about money affects everything. So
100%.
that that for me, I mean, that was kind of what got me here. You asked my why. That's what got me here, is seeing the need, not just, in our communities, even within my own family, within people I care about, close family friends, seeing that people that were totally taken advantage of, that are sharp people. One of my first clients that I was really able to make an impact in, the husband had an economics degree and they didn't know, what was being sold to them. So I just saw a big need for being able to make a large impact. And my mission is to serve God and to serve people. And doing what I do is not the only way to do that, of course. But for me and for our family, this is just where He has us.
Well, I agree with that because we're all given our strengths, and it is our responsibility, our duty to use them to
Yeah.
serve others and to serve God, quite frankly. But you
Yeah.
brought up an important point that I wanted to touch on. So I spent many years extremely active in the junior achievement program. I worked with kids all the way from kindergarten through seniors in high school, and where I really found what the group I loved working with most were the seniors. But what
Hmm.
was shocking to me is that they have zero education about money.
Hmm.
Even in the economics program where they're talking about high economics, they're still not learning the basics. And so
Exactly.
that is something that is very shocking to me. And I know it's one of your passions as far as, again, helping teach the fundamentals and financial literacy at the educational level in the schools.
Yes.
So tell me more about what you're doing around that.
Yeah, and I'm glad you asked. You're so right. It is not taught in schools, and if it is, sometimes when we do workshops, I'll ask people, raise your hand if you've ever taken just one financial education course, just one, even if it was just a few hours long. And usually I'll have about less than 10%. Usually in a room of 20 people, maybe one, maybe two have done something like that. And it's almost never through their school. It's usually through a church or
Yep.
maybe a program their parents signed them up for. So I really do believe that it has to start in the home. We're responsible for our children, of course,
Yep.
and making this a topic that's not taboo, but that we could talk about at home openly. And then, of course, our school system. I could complain for a while about how this isn't taught, but at the end of the day, we have to, again, be that change we want to see. So what we work on is we provide financial literacy, free resources, of course, financial literacy and financial education resources, and we try to partner up with as many schools, universities as we can. And to be honest, I would love to do more work in high schools. Being transparent, that's not something I've done a lot of. We've always kind of ran into a lot of red tape with students being minors. So we've done a lot with teachers, with faculty, with staff, and we've been able to have a lot of impact in universities, which I'm really thankful for. But between you and I would love to get more involved in high school because before they go on and make a, six-figure decision
Right.
to get student loan debt, we need this information as early as possible. So we've done a little bit with high schools, but to be honest, most of the impact that we've had up until this point have been with young college students. Just because we've found that college and universities are more open to hearing about financial literacies. We get a
Sure.
lot of resistance with the high schools because of the public system. So that's
Well,
something we're working to change.
we'll talk offline. I have some ideas for you of how you can get in there because I do think it's super important. And again, Callie says it's so needed in schools. Um,
Mhm.
Kids need to know how money works. I
Mm,
mean, bottom line, they need to know how money works, how debt works, how they pay it back, and I think as a society we're very out of touch with money.
mhm.
And so I think that if and the more you can do at the earlier age, the bigger impact that you're going to have. But
Absolutely.
so again, I just love talking to you. I love your passion. And again, it was one of the things that it was attracted me to you. Can I spit that out? Obviously, I'm a little
Yeah.
rusty, guys. Um, is really your passion for doing good really shines through everything that you do and say and write. I mean, it really comes through. But I know that in addition to financial literacy, you also are passionate about animal rescue and clean water and other things.
Yes.
So tell me a little bit more about some of your additional passions. Oh, so this is good. So Callie says she can be a resource for you too, because it's so important. And then I got an amen to
Thank
that
you,
as far as
Kathy.
financial literacy. So it is we're definitely seeing that this is an important topic. But let's talk for a minute about some of the side topics. Again, clean
Absolutely.
water and animal rescue, because both of those are near and dear to my heart as well.
Yes, yes. So those two causes in particular, my husband jokes that I'm passionate about everything, and that's why God put me in financial services is because I'm able to talk about everything with my clients, what they're passionate about, goals. But he jokes that I really am like, I want to do it all. I want to, and we all do, right? We all want to have as much impact as possible, but we can't. We're finite. We're limited to one place at one time. So there's a few causes that are just near and dear to our family. And those are two that are really special. So the clean water is something that we've been involved with for a long time. And there's a lot of organizations that do an unbelievable job. And Nancy, you don't mind me sharing
No,
exactly.
not at all. Please. Oh, somebody says
So
good to see you, Quincy. Okay, one moment.
Daya, wonderful to see you too.
Got a
Daya and
fan
I are good
there.
friends, and we spent some time together this morning. But there are a lot of amazing clean water resources out there. So this is just one of them. One organization that we've been really active and involved with for many years is an organization called Compassion International. And for someone who is wanting to get involved, not knowing where to start, they're an unbelievable organization because they don't just have one cause. They impact everything from education to empowering young women to helping. Their mission is helping children in poverty. That's their heart. But through helping children in poverty, they hit on all these unbelievable needs. One of which, of course, being clean water. And I got just to kind of share why I'm so passionate about this. I actually got something in the mail from a different organization, but who's doing the same thing. I got something in the mail a few weeks ago, and it was an envelope talking about why, we should contribute to clean water and how most families in their lifetime will never see. And it was this little packet. And gosh, I probably 1 ounce of water, maybe even like a quarter of an ounce. I mean, just a tiny little few drops of water in this clear packet. And I was wondering why they sent it. And they said, this is clean water. You and I have this out of our faucets. We have an unlimited amount, but most people in the world will never see this much clean water in their lifetime. And a few children every few seconds dies because of something that was treatable by clean water. So for me, there's so many incredible causes out there, but my husband and I always say that's such an easy one. And of course, nothing's easy, but you know what I mean, Nancy? Like that's just,
I do. Yeah.
man, if we just, not to sound like if we all just, but seriously, like that's just something that we can all have an impact in, and kids and families die because they don't have clean water and diseases. And it's just something you and I take for granted. Every time I get into a hot shower, I just say, thank you, Lord, it's not something I want to take for granted. So that's just something that everybody needs. It's not a choice. We need water. And so that's just something that we feel really strongly about if we can make an impact. So compassion does something where you can purchase or donate to a cause that provides water wells, not just for one family, but for a whole community.
Yeah.
And it's unbelievable, like the impact that 50 to $100 of our money can provide millions of gallons of water. So that's something that we feel strongly about, is like, something that's maybe not a huge financial impact for you and I, can, again, without sounding cliche, but can literally change the lives in a whole community. I just think that it's a responsibility of ours.
I agree with you. I think it's a fantastic cause, and something I've been involved with over the years as well, not to probably the same extent that you have, but I think it's a good reminder to get outside of ourselves as well, and to
Yeah.
look at things that we take for granted, even at the lowest economic levels in our country. Clean water is not, for the most part, an issue that we have. And
Exactly.
so it is really amazing. Okay, so now we have to move on to animal rescue, because everyone
Yeah.
knows I'm a big softie for my pets. So tell me
Yes.
about that.
So yes, and you'll have to, cut me off, because these are some of the topics, Nancy, that
No, it's
I
good.
like.
I want to hear about
I
it.
love, I love talking about this. But yeah, so this is, to be honest, out of all the causes we're in, this is one that we're not as active in right now in our community. But this is something that we do give. We don't give as much time to, but we do give resources to, just because we believe in it. And same with the water, a little bit can go such a long way.
Sure.
Probably my favorite way to make an impact with rescuing animals is, one, awareness. And I don't mean to be controversial when I say this, but we're really against, breeding, buying breeded animals, breeded dogs, just not because necessarily the people that are breeding are evil, but because there's just so many animals that are in shelters that need homes. And so many of those animals, because there's not enough people that are adopting them, are put down every year. So that's something that we try to do, is, in a non-judgmental way, because I know a lot of friends that have rescued animals, or excuse me, adopted animals from the mall, and from a friend of a friend who was breeding a puppy because it was cute. Again, their intentions weren't bad at all. So we never want to make anyone feel bad, but it's just raising that awareness that, hey, if you want to get an animal, if you want to maybe adopt a dog, please rescue it. Go to a local shelter, go to a local nonprofit organization, because there's just so many animals. There's so many animals that need homes, and if you and I don't take them home, they're not going to
Yeah.
have a home. So we
Yeah.
have two little rescue dogs. Odie is 4 years old. We rescued him when he was 6 weeks old from a nonprofit organization in Rochester, New York, that rescues dogs from bad backyard breeders. So from basically breeders who do have bad intentions, who are
Sure.
just trying to breed as many dogs at a time to make as much money as possible, but they're in really horrible situations. Like our poor Odie had fleas and ticks and
Yeah.
worms, and he just was in a really awful situation. We rescued him when he was young, and we joke he knows no other life. He's our diva. He does not remember that situation because he's a diva. And then our dog Nashville is a little different. Nashville we adopted from Tennessee. That's how we named him. And we also got him when we were living in New York, but he was rescued from a kill shelter in Tennessee. So thank God for this organization in Rochester called One Love that rescues animals from other states that have a lot of kill shelters. And unfortunately, that is what it sounds. They do have to
Yeah.
kill animals because they don't have enough people adopting them. And this amazing organization in Rochester rescued this basically bunch of dogs who were going to be put down, and they rescued them from Tennessee to New York. Thank God God led us to our Nashville. I told my husband, I swear we're not going to bring a dog home today. I swear we're not going to bring a dog home today. And we met our Nashville, and we just couldn't. So he was 3 years old, and now he's 5, and he's just amazing. But he was from a really abusive background, neglected, abused. We think there was more than 5 dogs and more than 5 children in that house. And we think
Uh,
there was just like one bowl of food that was put down per day and they had to fight for it. So he was really aggressive with food, but his heart was so good. But he was just really had some major anxiety issues. And we had to work on that, and if
yeah.
you're willing to work through it, just like people, right?
Yep.
Some dogs have their baggage too. Thank God someone's willing to love you and I. So we have to love these animals too, because they've got some baggage too. So that's something we're passionate about too, is adopt some older dogs, not just the puppies. And they need homes too. And now our dog he's not anxious at all. And we joke, he's our California boy. He's very happy we moved to California because he just bathes. He just lays in the sun all day. And we just love our dogs. They're part of our family. They really are.
Absolutely.
And our daughter loves them. Our daughter, that was some of her first words, was our dog's names.
Oh, that's so cute. That's so cute. Okay. So now I've got you all warmed up. So now we're going to transition to
Yeah.
a personal subject, and let's talk about faith, because you're very open about that, and you have been clear about that. You feel that faith doesn't is kind of been banished from the workplace, like it's not okay, and how do we be faithful to our standards, our faith, our beliefs. And you also are going to be starting a
Yeah.
podcast soon on that topic as well. So let's talk about a
Yes.
little bit about how you bring that into the workplace, because can be a very controversial topic.
It can be. And I'm glad that you brought it up because it can be controversial. It is really taboo to talk about. But for you and I, we just have to make choices that we really believe are in our best interest, in the best interest of everyone around us. And for me, I'm a born again Christian. And what I mean by that is I'm not perfect. Introduce me if you know someone who is. I don't know anybody that's not a sinner, that's not perfect. There's a difference between being nice and being perfect. And there's a lot of nice people, but there's no perfect people. And Jesus is the only perfect person that's ever walked the earth, in my belief. And thank God that he lived that life that I definitely can't live. He died, even though he didn't deserve it, and he died for me and for you and for everybody, so that we can, have eternal life. We can have peace in him that surpasses all understanding, and relationship with him. So for me, because he did that for me, that's the core of who I am. And we all find our identity in something. Even friends that I have a lot of friends that are atheists, agnostic, different beliefs, different lifestyles. And I talk to them about it, and I tease them that we all worship something. Maybe it's money, maybe it's success, maybe it's what people think of us, maybe it's even family, marriage,
Sure.
good things that again are good God-given gifts, but we worship it. It's ultimate. And if you want to know if you worship something, think, take it away. If this was taken away, would you still, would you have reason to live? For a lot of people, they say, man, if I didn't have my family, I'd have nothing. That's it. Well, that might potentially be something that we worship a little bit, and we don't love our family too much. We just love God too little, in my
Right.
opinion. So for me, because of that, Nancy, because that's the core of who I am, that's, again, we all worship something. I choose to worship the true and living God. And for me, that, of course, I can't worship God and not have that spill into the rest of my life.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like if I said, hey, I'm passionate about health and fitness, but I never work out, I don't eat well, you can tell by looking at me. Well, you don't know what's in my heart, but you can kind of tell by my outside, by what I talk about, by my actions. You can tell what's important, and if I spend 15 hours a week watching sports, you can tell that sports are an important part of my life, because where our heart is, our treasure will be also. So I believe that if faith, like it is for me, if Jesus, if God is an important, or the most important, hopefully, part of your life, and you never, then you should talk about him, and
Yeah.
again, you don't do it in a way where you're disrespectful or you're pushy or you're making someone feel uncomfortable. And my pastor always says that, none of us are righteous. None of us are, know it all. We're one beggar leading another beggar to the bread. So we're not doing it in a way that's self-righteous or judgmental, but that's also not an excuse not to share our faith. We're called to go out and share the good news and make disciples of all the nations. And I'm not a pastor, I'm a financial advisor, but he put me here. So whenever we have an opportunity for a divine appointment or sharing the good news, we want to do that. And I think that if you share my faith, that's something we're all called to do, no matter what our job is, no matter who you interact with on a daily basis. And that's just our outlook. And I'll be honest, that's been a recent outlook. I used to not share my faith at work. I just kept everything really separate. We kept Jesus in a box. And the past year and a half, 2 years, God's just really revealed a lot to us and changed a lot in our life. And I just feel like I can't stay quiet anymore.
Well, you share it in a beautiful and non-judgmental way. And I think that that is the key to doing it gracefully, because not everyone does. And so really, really big kudos to you on how you are bringing that to the forefront. I love it. It's a beautiful sentiment, and you share it in, like I say, a very kind, meaningful, and respectful way.
Thank you. And yeah, not perfect. Glory to God. But yes, it's if we want to reach people, then we have to be known for what we're for and not always what we're against.
Yeah.
So if you're always picketing with a sign, well, good luck winning a lot of people to your side, right? Jesus, he loved everybody. He ate with the tax collectors, the sinners. And I got news for you. We're all sinners. So, none of us are too good for anybody else. And God saved me. I didn't save anybody. So, and I can't save anybody, but I can share, and I think that is one other thing that I'll share real quick is, we can just share our story. We can share how God's changed my life, my heart, my marriage, my daughter. I mean, oh my gosh, my daughter's only 1 and she puts her hands together. I mean, it's like, it just fills up my heart that God's already working in her heart as a 1-year-old. And you can only share what's true. You can only share, what you know. So I think that if everyone kind of just shared what God has done in their own heart and their own life, I think more people would come to faith and know Christ. But we share rules. We share, not that there's not a place and time for that, but again, I think that when you first meet someone, they should know more what you're for, which is the love of Christ, than what you're against.
Yeah, I love it. That's wonderful. Okay, so now we're going to circle back to the business part, and before we move on to the 5 burning questions. So, as a financial advisor, a professional, whatever we should call you, if you could give one piece of advice to everybody as far as to improve their, let's just call it their financial literacy, what would it be?
So I would say, I'm going to cheat a little bit on a really simple front: live below your means. That would solve the people I see, 90% of those people, all their financial issues would be solved if they just live below their means, which starts by knowing where your money goes, knowing what you spend. So simply live below your means, right? It's biblical. God says for us to do that, be good stewards of our money. A little bit more advanced, if you're like, yeah, I know that, is have your 3 fundamental accounts in order. And this is something I talk about a lot. If that's not a term you're familiar with, what I mean is you have your short-term accounts, your mid-term accounts, your long-term accounts. The product might be a little bit different for every person, but you should have short-term emergency funds set up. You should have mid-term goals and dreams accounts. For example, Nancy, maybe you're saving for, I'm sure, you own your house, but saving for a house or traveling or for your children.
Sure.
And then your long-term accounts is usually your retirement accounts, more wealth building accounts. Most people I meet with don't have any of those, or they'll just have small short term and a small long term. And when life happens and emergencies or crises happen, everything gets drained at once because they didn't have those accounts protecting their assets. So again, those are
That's
just two
perfect. Yeah.
tips I give.
I love it. I love it. That's perfect. Okay. So are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. So the 5 burning questions that are posed to every guest always
Yes.
start with, what is your absolute favorite food in the world and can you cook it?
Yes. So I will have to go with popcorn on this one.
A girl after my own heart.
Now, granted, there's lots of savory, good food that I love, but this is a food I could eat every day, and I pretty much do for the rest of my life and never get sick of. And yes, I make some mean popcorn. I cook it on the stove in coconut oil, and I spray with sea salt, avocado oil. Man, I mean, I know that I'm not being humble here, but yeah, it's pretty darn good.
That is awesome. That is awesome. Okay. So what's the one character trait that you admire most in other people and why?
So I would say that would be someone who is a good steward of their time. That's probably the trait I admire the most. Someone who manages their time in a way that, again, honors God, honors their family, their business, if they have one. That's our most valuable earthly resource is our time.
Yeah, I
We can
love it.
always make more money. We cannot make more time. It
That's
doesn't, you
very,
know, so that is such a valuable um, it's such a valuable resource that we just can't get back. And for how valuable it is, a lot of us squander it and we don't really respect it. So, and again, I'm one of those people, where I'm working very hard to get better at this. There's a book I'm reading right now called Redeeming Your Time. I'm almost done with it. It just came out in October. It's a brand new book. And that's been life-changing reading that book
nice.
and that perspective on how to manage our time. So I'd say that's the trait that I would respect the most in others, since that's a weakness of mine that I'm really working at to be better.
Okay. So if I were to flip the mirror on you, what's the character trait that you're most proud of in yourself and why?
I would probably say I think that I'm a good mom. I think that I'm a good mom to my baby girl. I'm not perfect, but I'm proud of her. I'm proud of us and our relationship.
I love it. That's a wonderful
Yeah.
character. All right. So now we're just going to take a little random one and I'm going to say, if you were an animal, what would you be and why?
We have a little inside joke in my family that is that I'm kind of like a bear. So I'm gonna say, I know it's kind of random, but I'm gonna say a grizzly bear. They're great mamas. They got their they're literally a mama bear. They're known to be the most protective. And all the fun things. They eat a lot of food, they sleep for a few months. I mean, if
Who
we're
doesn't want to be a bear?
right? I mean, I know that I just told you I want to be a good discipline of my time. You're like, are you sure you want to hibernate for 4 months? But in the hypothetical world, yeah, I think
Yeah.
that sounds fun.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Okay. So what's your secret talent or something people would be surprised to learn about you?
Gosh, I would say birthdays, and I'm pretty good at remembering everyone's birthday. If you tell me your birthday, and again, right when I say this, someone's gonna be like, "Hey, you didn't remember my birthday last year." But for the most part, if someone just tells me their birthday one time, I'll remember it for forever.
That's
I don't
good.
know what it is about birthdays, dates, anniversaries. I it's like my husband says, it's just my love language, giving gifts, remembering dates. So I can't remember anything to take a test to save my life, but I can remember your birthday
I
if you
love it.
tell me.
I love it. That's awesome. Okay. So, last question. So, who's somebody that you've either connected with on LinkedIn, maybe a podcast host that you follow that you would most like to meet in real life, sit down, have a cup of coffee, and have a good conversation with?
Whew. Oh man, I forgot to think about this one. I would say, oh, I'm thinking of there's two people that come to mind. Um, Daya, who actually was just listening in. I'm not sure if he's listening in. He actually lives in Trinidad. I'd love to meet up with him. Can I cheat and give one more name?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Also Laura Sorensen, who's in Rhode Island. Her and I have gotten to be pretty good friends, and we met over LinkedIn just a few months ago. And she's just wonderful. We have a lot in common, and she's just I think her and I, if we had drinks together, coffee together, I think that we'd have a lot of fun. So, and that's something that hopefully, God willing, we'll get to do someday. But
Awesome.
she lives in New England, and I'm on the West Coast. So
Yep.
those are the two I cheated.
Oh, that's okay. I've been very blessed over this last year to meet in person a lot of people that I'd only met over
Yeah.
LinkedIn, the prior year, and it was so interesting because there was no awkwardness. It was like you already knew that person pretty well.
Yes.
Oh, hey, so Dio is still what? He was still listening. She said he would love that. So amazing. Well, I just want to really thank you for your time. I want to thank you for sharing your passions and your insights. It's been wonderful to have you on. And if people want to know more about what you do and want to get in contact with you, what would be the best way to do that?
Honestly, LinkedIn.
Okay.
LinkedIn is the best way. We are going to be launching a podcast, but called For His Glory, but that'll be after the new year. So as of now, a lot of that is going to be streamlined through LinkedIn. So a LinkedIn message, or yeah, a DM would be best. We check it every day, and we, like you, have built a lot of amazing relationships through LinkedIn, and I'm thankful for that because you and I wouldn't know each other.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, thank you again for coming on, and I'll see everybody again next week.
Thank you, Nancy.
Thank you.